Hello everyone. So first of all, no slides for me. You'll have to concentrate and hear me. Uh, good afternoon everyone. I'm Anurag Johri. I lead the utilities practice for Accenture in the country. Uh, if you really ask me, the most momentous, the most consequential thing today which is being done is around energy transition. And within energy transition, the electrification of transport happens to be the most critical component. And it's one component which each one of us will be able to see, look and feel. You may not know when the electricity is from renewables or from coal, when you are at your place. But when you are using a vehicle, when you are using mobility, it's right there in your face, right? So therefore, I think the EVs which are coming up, the electrification of transport, that's an extremely important thing which each one of us will feel very, very strongly about. And, within the electrification of transport, a less glamorous thing to talk about, but the most important thing to talk about has to be the EV charging infrastructure. So when I was thinking about what should I be talking here, I thought I will pick up 4 imperatives. You can call it imperatives, you can call it improvement opportunities, you can also call it challenges. But there are 4 key things we will need if we want to have the right kind of EV charging infrastructure in the country, right? So the first challenge which I see in our country is that our EV charging infrastructure is 3 things which it should not be. It is sparse, it is sporadic, and it is also uncoordinated. So what do I mean when I say all of those words? Today India has got around 2 million 2 million EVs in the country. However, the number of EV charging points which are public in nature is only about 14,000. What does that mean? That means for every 1,000 EVs, we have only about 7 publicly available charging points, which is not adequate. So therefore, the range anxiety is real in India. If you compare it with China, China has got almost 2.5 million publicly available charging points for EVs, right? So now what do we do for that, right? But even before this, so we said 14,000 charging points. So that was sparse. I also said sporadic. Why did I say sporadic? Because out of these 14,000 charging points, more than 50% are only in the India's top 10 cities, which means a large part of India today does not have a public EV charging infrastructure at all. I also said uncoordinated. It means that while there could be these 14,000 charging points which have come up, but they are not kind of coordinating amongst themselves. I don't think those are the ones which are interoperable and things like that, right? So what should India do? I think there are things we can learn from outside India. I called out China. So if you look at China in 2009, and I marked the year 2009, they came up with 10 cities, 1,000 vehicles initiative, wherein they tried to ensure that they are able to saturate 10 cities with very dense EV charging networks. It was a roaring success. Instead of 10, they ended up doing 25. And today, as we all are aware, China happens to be a country where 50% of all EV charging infrastructure vis-a-vis the world exists, right? So that is the kind of example we could follow. And what we could have for us could be a 100 cities, one network kind of a thing, wherein, we integrate land, transport, and utility planning together and bring up the right kind of EV charging infrastructure, right? The second challenge I would like to call out, and I'm thankful to Ashim because he kind of went into a lot of detail around that, that is around the potential for grid disruption, right? As a challenge, there is a potential for grid disruption, but if you look at it as an opportunity, there is also an opportunity for load management using EVs, right? So, if we if we really look at a EV charging point, it is not the same as a socket point which we have at our place, because this is a different kind of a giant altogether. And therefore, there are strategies to ensure that how we are able to take this into account. So again, looking outside India, if we look at Netherlands, they have been able to leverage AI, advanced load forecasting techniques, and TOU to ensure that their charging points are smart charging points. So they are not only connected, they have inbuilt features which allow you to charge only during off-peak hours, for example. Or there are times of the day when not only you pay higher, but your charging could be quite constrained if you were to do in those hours, right? Similarly, we look at UK around the opportunity. So UK is one of the countries which is taking a vanguard position around how to leverage vehicle to grid for grid stabilization, right? So if I look at India, what are the learnings and what are the kind of things we could do? There are three things I would propose. The first, we need to mandate smart chargers with demand response capability, so that every fast charger is intelligent and it is not just connected. The second is, we need to subsidize solar plus battery microgrids for smart charging. That enables us to make sure that we do not only kind of compromise on the grid. At the same time, we are feeding it with the clean energy. And thirdly, there should be dynamic pricing for EV charging, just like time of the day tariffs we have for commercials, right? The third aspect, which again maybe I don't hear a lot of people talking about, is around land permits and regulations. If you really look at our country, it takes almost 12 to 18 months to just get the land for EV charging. And if you are trying to get it near a metro or some of the important places, I think it will take even more time. And I'm only talking about getting the land. Then getting the other things in the system done is additional time. So that's actually not a growth breaker, it's a deal breaker, right? Now again, if we look outside, if you look at Singapore today, Singapore does not allow any new building. They do not allow any new commercial area to come up without a proper installation of EV charging infrastructure. If we look at California and other parts of the US, today they can bring up EV charging infrastructure in 30 days' time, because that's the limit municipalities have been given to provide either approvals or the approvals are deemed to have happened, right? So similarly for India, there are three things which I would propose. One, we need to have a national EV land bank where states can tell about which land they would like to propose for EV charging. And then, faster approvals could be made available, infrastructure could be made available around that land bank. The second is, can there be a single window clearance system, especially for high volume, high speed charging stations? And finally, we need to mandate EV ready infrastructure in all new commercial buildings which are coming up. So while I would suggest it should happen for residential buildings as well, but for commercial, it is absolutely important that it gets done. Finally, again, something which Accenture, when we did our global research, we found one important aspect, and while this research was more around Europe, China, and the US, because those are larger markets, but I'm sure that will be valuable for India as well. The fragmented user experience, that is something which again is a deal breaker. And what does that mean? Actually, it means that if you have a petrol car and you can only go to, say, 1/10 of the petrol stations to get your car filled with petrol, how would you feel, right? That's how it is in India today. So if I have to take my EV to 3 states, I might need 3 apps 4 RFID cards, and still I may not be sure if I'll be able to use them, right? So therefore, again, if you look at some of the good practices, in Europe, they actually have got a platform called Hubject e-roaming platform, which is across countries. So you need one ID, and you are able to charge your vehicle at one single rate across Europe, right? So that is the kind of intervention which can be very helpful. Similarly, if you look at the Nordic countries, even if you look at China today, they are all moving towards industrialized nomenclature, industrialized types of APIs and systems and platforms, so that there is interoperability, right? Again, in my view, what India needs to do, learning from these, is we absolutely need to mandate the right kind of infrastructure specifications, right? So that our infrastructure is interoperable. We also need something like an app which can give me a feedback on what kind of points are there in my vicinity. Are they available? What is the rating? Are they hygienic, right? Are they fast chargers, or are they or do they have different charging capacities? So what it will enable the driver to do is know exactly where to go, right? So just to conclude around all the things I said, there are 3 things we need to do. One is we need to move from incentives to infrastructure. We need to move from pilots to platforms. And finally, we need to move to from fragmentation to coordination. A lot of people will ask me, can we afford to do that? I believe that's the wrong question to ask. The right question to ask is, can we afford not to do that? On that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much.